Hello and welcome to the Peak State Fit Experience podcast, recorded from the Peak State Fit Performance Center located in Salt Lake City, Utah. You are listening to our fourth episode. The first season of the podcast will follow the modules in Nail Your First IRONMAN course, which is now available for $189. The course has 35 lessons and covering over 4 pillars of the Ironman: swim, bike, run, and nutrition, plus tips from my 34 years of racing and 20 years of coaching experience. Peak State Fit has placed an importance on education since our inception, and our business mission is to share knowledge and empower others through education. Last week, we talked about choosing a coach or using a training plan. And we talked with a coaches roundtable featuring Tracy Campbell, Sybil Govan, and Pat Casey, who are all Peak State Fit coaches. You can head back over to Spotify or YouTube to catch that episode and any others that you may have missed. Please hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating while you're there. So today, we have episode number 4. Our title of today's show is Choosing a Goal for Your First Ironman. And I have a very special guest, Jen Rulon, who's here with us. Jen has been a triathlon coach for 22 years, and she's the owner of jenrulon.com. She received her master's degree in kinesiology with an emphasis in exercise science. Jen is an accomplished author and speaker of national publications ranging from Triathlete Magazine, Runner's World. She's been on the TEDx Stage, Men's Journal Online, the New York Times, and most recently, she was the commencement speaker at the University of Wisconsin, Whitewater, which is her alma mater. Jen's book is about how she's lived with passion, grit, and heart. It's called Self-Motivation Strategies for Women, and it's linked in our show notes so that you can check it out on Amazon. So the reason I asked Jen to be on today's show about setting goals is that she practices what she preaches. She became inspired by watching the Ironman World Championships on NBC TV, that beautiful, spectacular showcase of Hawaii in the championships. And she became so inspired by watching that she knew with that spark of inspiration, she was setting it as her goal to one day be there on that world stage in Kona. She accomplished that goal on October 14th, 2017. Happens to be the day that I accomplished the goal too, and see so much more in life. So now let's hear from our guest, Jen Rulon. Thank you for being here.
Heather.
Yeah, thanks for being here. If there's anything I left out of your intro, please feel free to add. But I know that I'm just so glad that you're here and you're feeling better. You've been a little under the weather after traveling back up north where it's cold.
Yes, extremely cold. I think I actually left on the right time. I left on the 19th of December, and I think that's when everybody got slammed with cancellations and cold weather, and so I'm back. But I think going from really cold to what I'm not used to extremely hot in Costa Rica, it took a toll for me on my head.
Yeah. And you've been living the island life, being in Costa Rica. Did you have to really just completely switch gears to think about going to deliver this commencement speech?
No, not really, because, the commencement speech was more about truly how I've been living my life over the last 3 years and really digging deep because I technically retired from the Ironman space as an athlete in 2019. And I knew that at Ironman Florida when I crossed that finish line and I found out what I accomplished, I knew I was done. So I knew I was going on this journey. And so when I was heading back for the commencement speech, I knew exactly what I wanted to talk to those kids about was just teaching them to don't listen to society. Because society's going to tell you what you should and shouldn't do and, get married, have babies, get a job, retire. Like, oh my God, that sounds terrible,
Yeah.
So So I really I went into that commencement speech saying, like, hey, this is my life that I live, because at 17 years old, when I saw the Ironman World Championship with Dave Scott and Mark Allen, that 1989 showdown, I knew I wanted to do that, but I hated running. Heather, I
Oh,
hated running. I was bad
I
at
thought you
running.
were a
Oh my,
runner.
oh, bad girl, no. I hated running. And everybody's like, what? I was like, oh yeah, I was like the last person on the mile test, like I hated running. So going back to Whitewater, Wisconsin, where I grew up, really brought back a whole bunch of nostalgic emotions, because from my house to Fremont Street was a mile. And so I knew I had to run, like in my head, I put my Nike Air Pegasus on and I ran to that Fremont Street and I ran back. And that's how I
Yeah,
started. Yeah.
awesome. I love it. So now take us back. We're going to dive into our goals questions here, and take us back to maybe some of the first goals that you set for yourself when you were training for your very first Ironman. Oh, and what was that first Ironman?
It was Ironman Wisconsin 2002. So it was the very first year they did Ironman Wisconsin.
Wow. And it's such an iconic one.
It's an iconic one. Yeah. So I did that. And my goal at that point was just to finish, right? Because I had no idea what to expect. I had no idea. I just wanted to enjoy 140.6 miles, because it's like, I always tell my athletes this, especially if it's their first one. It's like your first date. It's like your first, I don't know, your first triathlon ever, even whether if it's a sprint or an Olympic, right? It's your first Ironman. And like, I want you to consume it all. I want you to consume the energy. And honestly, like, that's what I did for Ironman Hawaii. Like, it was my first Ironman Hawaii as an athlete, not as a participant, not working there, or not as a spectator. It was my first doing, so I consumed everything, And so for my first race at Wisconsin, it was to consume, to just enjoy the experience of it all.
Yeah. That's so cute that you said, like, it's sort of like a first date. You can never go back and have that first date again. I've never heard anybody say that, Jen. And it's fabulous because, it's a truth that as a coach, sometimes it's hard even to share that truth with athletes because, people ask me what my favorite Ironman was. And in a lot of ways, even though Kona seems like the obvious choice, my first was Ironman Canada, and it was magical. It was the first date. It was the magic. It was everything, and I was Cinderella, and you can't ever get that back.
You can't get that back. It's the first kiss. It's the first touch. Like, that's what we crave, And so I always want to tell people, if it's your first one, just embrace it.
Yeah. Oh, so perfect. And then with the podcast, we are following the course, Nail Your First Ironman. And so we're not just talking about race day. We're truly talking about this entire journey. And so how do you set different types of goals for the year? I mean, do you, or in recommending this for your athletes? Yeah. So dive back into that beginner's mindset for yourself.
Yeah. I think back in when I first started, I think I looked at the big picture of it all and I flipped out, right? Because I would see like some of my workouts that I'd have to do. I'd be like, what? I have to do 6 hours on the bike, but I'm only riding 2 hours. Like, no, like that's just what, So I think now, if I could have told my beginner self, I would say, don't look at the next 3 to 6 months, right? I need you to look at this week. This is where you're at this week. Like, and And as coaches, you have to trust us, right? We've done the math, we've done the time, we've done it all. And you just have to trust us, trust the process,
Mm-hmm.
right? So just look at each week, and set yourself a goal in that week. Like I have athletes saying, I want to have hashtag green week. If you're on
Yes.
Training Peaks, you know what that is, and we all strive for green week. I haven't had green week in I don't know how many years now, but yeah, I think having a green week is a goal. Like that's just a week. Maybe you want a green month, something like that. So don't look at the big picture, dumb it down and go week by week.
Right. Because you can get way ahead of yourself and just start to feel so overwhelmed if you think about the volume that's at the end of your training plan rather than what you have to focus on right now. The consistency portion is so important. And I think that if athletes have something that's their limiter for you, you said that you weren't, a born natural runner. That was my same thing is I was not a runner, but I was a swimmer, which is flopped for most people because I would say if you took a poll of most Ironman athletes, swimming is the limiter for most people. But I think that sometimes athletes get stuck in this mindset in the beginning, beginner's mindset, not so much for advanced athletes of if something is their limiter, they sometimes avoid doing it. And the avoidance, you're not going to get better with avoidance. So, going to the pool and either cheating the swim by using a tool you shouldn't be using, like a pool buoy when you're not supposed to be using a pool buoy or fins. Communicate with your coach.
Yeah. You cannot, I always tell this to my athletes, you cannot win an Ironman in a swim, but you sure can lose an Ironman in a swim.
Yeah. And so,
especially if that's your weakest.
Yeah. And with any habit, anything you're taking on that's new, what you suggested of looking at those small chunks rather than being overwhelmed by the big picture is just you'll be able to wrap your brain around it so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, that was the perfect segue into our next question of how can setting goals help you tackle your fears to gain confidence?
I think you have to address your goals first, right? Because people avoid those. Mm-hmm. They avoid the fear because they don't want to deal with it, right? So if swimming is your worst, you're always going to avoid it. You're avoiding going to the pool. You're going to avoid to do this. So I think addressing what is your fear? Like, what is your fear? But why? Like, let's say for swimming is a great example. Why are you scared of swimming? Mm-hmm. What is that fear? Are you fear of drowning? Are you fear of not finishing? What is that fear? Like, figure out the fear first, right? Once you've addressed that, then you're like, okay, well, my Ironman or my race is going to be at a lake. I have to go swim open water, once a week, wherever you're at, that type of thing. So I think giving yourself weekly goals about addressing the fear of whatever, and then tackling that mentally, but then actually going and doing the activity, say, hey, coach has got me down for 4 swims. I know I can knock out 3. So I'm doing, I'm 75% there, or I say, you know what, this whole month, I'm going to knock out those 4 swims. That's my goal. Like, just tackle the month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then be able to check that box and have a win for yourself.
Yeah. And if you win, maybe you say, all right, I'm going to grab a new swimsuit, or I'm going to grab new goggles, or, we triathletes love stuff like that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
maybe reinforce yourself. Like maybe you take yourself out, you and your partner out and you celebrate your win of swimming. I had an athlete that just hated swimming, hated it. And I was like, you have to find a way to learn how to swim and get out of your head. And she struggled drastically.
Yeah. I think we've probably all had those. Yeah. Tell
Oh yeah.
me, when you were training for your first Ironman, what were some of your fears? I mean, did you fear that, what was it, running? Did you fear that you couldn't finish the marathon, or what were some of your fears?
No, because I was that girl that did a marathon before an Ironman, and
Yeah.
I talk about that. I don't think that's necessary. So I knew I could run. I think my fear was, gosh darn it. I knew I'd finish. I think the
You're just
fear
so
was
stinking
that
badass you weren't scared.
no. I think my fear was just about like bonking and nutrition. Like I didn't understand bonking, right?
Hmm.
I guess I understood it in the marathon pace, in the marathon world, but I never realized that, if you didn't take your nutrition in on the bike, that can totally affect you for the run, and so I had, in my nutrition packet, like I had like a, what do you call it? I was a mad scientist,
Bonus sport.
did, you just don't know. And so I think it was the nutrition. And then, it's weird. I think it's been so long.
Yeah.
I don't, you know,
Yeah.
and then I think yeah,
That's a legitimate
go ahead.
one, because I mean, and that's one of the things also that we teach in the course is
Oh, good.
85% of DNFs in Ironman are from GI distress.
Yeah,
And so
I was
that's a
just going to
legitimate
say,
fear.
yes, I was just going to say, and still after my 15th Ironman, I still would stress about GI stuff.
Yeah. It is a very tricky beast, and
It is.
nutrition definitely deserves a lot of respect, and even a little bit of respectful fear is good.
Yes.
Just to,
Mm-hmm.
fear is definitely a motivator. I think, and for some people, the fear of disappointment, of not finishing.
Yeah.
I knew in my first Ironman, if I got off the bike, I would finish, because I would do anything I could to finish the marathon.
Oh, sure. Oh, right.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Even the
Yeah.
fear of getting like a flat tire.
Hmm.
Like, because
Yeah.
in 2018 at Ironman Florida, when they moved it to Haines City, within 30 seconds, I got a flat tire. It took me 25 minutes to change the tire because
Oh,
I never practice. I was
yeah.
so tempted to turn back around. I'm like, it's quick. It will be easier for me to walk to transition than to fix this and then
Yeah.
to turn in my chip, but I couldn't do it. Yeah.
That is something, and you learned, and I will hold my hand up too and say that, because my husband is so good at such thing as changing a flat tire, that if we're together, it's something he always did for me. But it is definitely something that should be practiced on your own. And I've
100%.
never done this myself, but I have heard of coaches who are very much from the tough love boat that will be out on a training ride with athletes and puncture the tire, like with a pin,
No.
or just let all the air out and say, okay, here we are. Now's your time to practice. And I think that, I mean, like I said, I couldn't never bring myself to do that, because I
Right.
just couldn't. But I think it's important to practice those types of things that bring you fear, whether it's swimming. But
Yeah.
that is one. So the nutrition thing, you can somewhat control with practice. The flat
Yes.
tire, you can definitely practice. And there's no
Practice.
reason that people shouldn't practice that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So true. So
Yeah.
true.
fortunately now with sealant being, and tubeless tires, it's not as big of a deal as when we started,
True.
but definitely one of those things that people think about.
Yes.
So when you started racing and, obviously the goal was to finish and to embrace it and have all that joy.
Mm-hmm.
But then as you became more competitive and had more experience, how did your goals change? Did you then begin to set specific goals for each discipline or for placing a certain space in your age group?
I think so. I did 4 Ironmans, took an 8-year sabbatical, and then did 11 Ironmans within like 6 years.
Yeah.
Because I think what happened was after my second Ironman at Ironman Brazil, I actually was like I was in that 30 to 34 age group. Oh, so young. And and then it kept rolling down, and the woman that got 8th place got the spot to Hawaii, and I was
Wow.
9th, and we were 90 seconds off from each other.
Wow.
Or 80, it was like 87 seconds. It was crazy. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I think that fueled my fire a little bit, because I was realizing, oh, I am there. But then after like the 8 years of like, I had to take a break. Like after 4 years, I was like, or after 4 Ironmans, I was just exhausted. I was really tired. So I shouldn't say tired. I focused on my career more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
To
You
be
went back
honest
to
with you,
school during that time period too to get your master's, right?
I did. Yep,
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah. And so I was working at my dream job. I was working at SeaWorld for years, and at that time I was working with killer whales. And so for me to go out and train for 6 hours on my bike and then come in and train with animals, like I couldn't be tired. Like I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't be like
Yeah.
walking in exhausted, right? I just couldn't do that. So
Yeah.
I took that break, went back to school. Yep, did all that. And then even at one point when I was at school, I was like, oh, I'm going to do Ironman 70.3 Galveston. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're going to sit for the next 3 hours reading about human anatomy. Not, like,
Mm-hmm.
so that was, and so then when I went to Hawaii in 2000, oh my God, when did we go? My ex qualified in 2000 and I don't even remember but we went to Hawaii when he qualified. I was like, oh my God, this is why I'm here. Right.
Yeah.
This is the reason. So then I started, sorry, this is long winded, but, long story short, when I came back around after my 8-year sabbatical, then I started racing Ironmans and not just doing them to finish them.
Mm-hmm. Did you have, were you using a coach at that first stage and at this more competitive stage?
I had, yeah. So I had one coach that got me through my first Ironman. I used Brandon Marsh that got me through through 3 of them. Then I stepped away, found CrossFit, drank the Kool-Aid, tried to do CrossFit and Ironman triathlon training. I worked with a coach there that did sort of focused on that. But then I realized, no, I can't be putting on muscle mass right now to try to qualify for Kona. So I went back to Brandon Marsh, and Brandon and I, like, when I qualified at Ironman Mont Tremblant in Canada, he's like, I think you just qualified. He goes, I think I'm shedding a tear. I'm like, what? Brandon with no emotions? Yeah. So, I did have a coach. 100%. The whole journey, the whole Ironman journey. And I'm a coach too, but I needed a coach.
Of course. Yeah, always.
Yeah.
Well, I want to go back and spend an entire show just talking about you working at SeaWorld. but I guess we don't have time for that.
Right,
But I
right.
mean, so I am an animal lover, and you are 100%. I mean, like, you can't work with killer whales that are, dangerous animals when have no energy, left
No,
for yourself. And because they
no,
definitely, it's like, I mean, that animal, yeah.
no.
Gosh, what an exciting time. You can tell I want to talk about it.
Well, and that's just it. I left in 2009 of
Hmm.
September, and in February is when the woman passed in Florida.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
like, my timing was impeccable, to be honest with you.
Right.
So,
What an
yeah.
opportunity. I worked not even trying to compare at all, by the way, but when my children were very small and I was living in Florida, the Gulf Breeze Zoo was close
Yeah.
by, and I worked as an educator, just showing people the animals, like the
Yeah.
hawks and the monkeys. And I actually had one experience. I wanted to tell this little story because animals can be so dangerous, but I was standing next to the
And
cage with the monkeys, telling the guests about the spider monkeys, and one grabbed my hair through the cage and wouldn't let go. And I'm like trying to be all cool about it, but they can see, of course. And I'm like, oh, it's fine. Not exactly a
yeah.
killer whale, but
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. Like, yeah, I could not go in there tired
yeah.
as, for my week. So, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's a whole other story in itself.
I know, and you have a lot of great stories. What a diversified life, and
Thank you.
now living in Costa Rica,
I am.
and just doing your podcast interview in your bathing suit.
I know, right? And it's funny because, like, people are like, "Well, what's next?" I'm like, "I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know,
and
and I don't need to know, and I need to be really calm about that. Like, I just want
mhm,
to look good in a bikini. I mean, I jokingly say that, but
yeah,
I do. I wanna work out when I want to work out. I wanna do strength training. I want to go for a walk on the beach. I don't need. I want to go swim when I want to go swim, and I've been having so much fun just throwing on my
mhm.
swim cap, throwing on my goggles, going out, swimming into town, and then I run back. Oh my God.
Oh my
It's like
gosh.
the best little workout ever.
Okay, I'm gonna have to book a
When you come in
flight
to
and come
visit,
do that with you.
right?
That sounds glorious.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
my last question, we could say we
Yes.
could casually chat all day. What are
I know,
your
right?
top three tips for a first-time Ironman athlete, just in that training phase?
I saw that question. Give gratitude every morning and every night that you get to do, you get to race, you get to do an Ironman, you get to train, you get to work with these amazing coaches, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty special. Like, that we have the opportunity to do this. You have the
Hmm.
opportunity. So I'd say give yourself, say gratitude every day and every night. Or um, if you miss a workout, don't try to make it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think the biggest thing that I see is that if people have missed a workout, all of a sudden all their workouts are at the end or at and I'm like, yeah, that
Yeah.
doesn't really help. So if you miss a
Right.
workout, let it go and then move on, right?
Yeah.
Don't make it up. And then number 3, gratitude. Listen to your coach,
Okay. You're right.
because we've done the work, y'all.
Hmm.
Like, you
Hmm.
hired us for a reason,
Yeah.
and we're going to give you some tough love, and it's going to suck. And, but we're also going to give you grace. We're going to understand that, like, the holidays are the worst, right? Because everybody's like, oh my God, I've fallen off the
Hmm.
bandwagon. It's okay. It's the holidays.
Hmm.
Everybody does, right? And
Yeah.
everybody needs that break. But yeah, I say gratitude. Um, if you miss a workout, don't make it up, and then listen to your coach.
Yeah. Awesome. All good stuff. Yeah, people don't realize that, with the holidays, if you've taken a week off, maybe you've taken more than a week off, your body is going to be okay. And it is going to snap back and remember where you were. And it might take a week to feel, as strong again, but you will. You will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can I add a bonus? Be honest with your coach.
Yes,
be honest.
please.
If you add an extra workout, if you miss something, don't put it in that's saying that you did that. Because if we see Green Week and we think, oh my God, they're doing amazing, and all of a sudden you come to your event and you fail at the swim, then you're like, this isn't adding up. You have to be honest with us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. So many times this is only the 4th episode, but every time I think about, my 20 years of coaching and individual athletes will pop into my mind, and I'm like, well, I could tell a story anonymously. And like, well, I don't know if I actually could but there are I'm thinking right now, of swim workouts where if an athlete would just come to me and say, I'm struggling in the swim, maybe can we make some adjustments to my workouts?
Yes.
Rather than them wearing fins when they're not saying that they're wearing fins, or just saying they did the workout when they actually didn't do the workout. I'm like, that's like cheating in school. You're only cheating yourself. We are here to be the best supporter you have on this Ironman journey. Just be honest.
Right. So true.
Yeah. So many good lessons. I definitely want to come see you in Costa Rica. I hope you choose to hang out there for a while.
Well, I'm trying to figure out some opportunities down here for athletes, or I shouldn't say athletes, but people who are fit that want to come and explore Costa Rica through fitness.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
And I love that. And you're the perfect person to deliver that kind of program.
Thank you.
You just turned 51. Happy birthday.
I did. Thank you.
I turned 51 in about 2 weeks. We're super close with those birthdays.
We are.
And this is a little bit off topic of setting goals for Ironman, but setting goals for life. I mean, you and I both, we accomplished our dream goal with triathlon of doing Ironman in Hawaii, the World Championships. And then that was also my last race. I haven't raced since then. But I realized, so I'm now post-menopause, and my body's changing. I'm getting older. I have aches and pains that I didn't used to have. And I realized that for me, Ironman didn't fit in that equation anymore. And I really wanted to honor my body with more time in the gym, more time that was a little bit better for my parasympathetic nervous system, and just staying, a little on the chill spectrum of things.
Yes. Yeah. It's nice that I can wake up and not have to go and feel like I have to work out right now. I think I was menopausal going into Kona, or I was
too, and I didn't know it.
Yep. I thought my hot flashes were just like, oh, I'm training. No, it's training. Yeah.
Oh gosh, we will.
That's another topic, girl.
We will do an entire show on that after this season, because it's the one thing that I have so many women that if I ever post on Instagram about hormone health or about women's health, people immediately respond privately and say, please do more of this, because it's so unspoken. And so we will for sure.
Sounds
but thank you for today.
Yes, thanks for having me.
You're just a wealth of knowledge about Ironman, and I truly respect and admire everything you're doing in your life right now to live authentically and with joy.
Thank you.
So I'm going to stop our recording. Yeah.
Okay. No, it's good.
You go ahead. Were you finishing up?
Oh, I was just going to say it's been an incredible journey, but it's been an incredible journey, and I'm glad I took the chance.
Yeah,
So,
I'm glad you did too.
yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. We're on Spotify and YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe and give us a 5-star review. We'll be back next week with episode 5.